So welcome to another episode of Sailing Melody. We're slightly behind on episodes, and so this one should be with you on Friday, hopefully. But we're a little bit behind, so unfortunately I ended up in hospital because we had a bit of a scare with baby, but everything's fine. But it just means that we have taken a bit of a back seat and a bit of a break from doing some work. So obviously Andy was making sure that everything was okay and I was okay. So, but it's all good.
A lot of you have said that that's far more important than YouTube, and you're dead right, it is. So we just had to kind of take a beat and take a breather and let more important things kind of take their place. But everything's fine. Melissa is absolutely okay, and the baby is absolutely okay, and we've had scans and heard the baby's heartbeat, and it's all perfect. But just wanted to explain why the episode wasn't out on Wednesday as normal. Look at those guys over there. They're really cool. Hello, Mr. Seal. Hello.
So since finding out that I was pregnant, we've been discussing and stressing about the options for modifying Melody. We're very limited in what we can do. Obviously, when the new baby comes along, he's going to be sleeping in with us to start with, and then, but eventually he will need his own space, and that's probably not for another 2 years. However, the biggest thing that we don't want to do is obviously in 2 years' time we could upgrade the boat and either do a massive modification or upgrade and get a different boat with a different layout. The thing that we don't want to do is, because we know our budget will be limited, is take on another restoration project 2 years sort of into our adventure and have to be on land doing up another boat, because we know that we will only ever be able to afford to take on another project boat.
Ages and ages and ages ago, before we even had Aeolus, I think, or maybe we had Aeolus, we went to see a boat called the Dudley Dix. It was designed by Dudley Dix, and it was a Dudley Dix pilot house, and we loved it. It had got, it was a steel-built, round-bilge boat, everything that you could want out of a cruiser for a family. And one of the reasons that we kind of hesitated, apart from the fact that it was massively out of our budget, was at the time that was kind of what made us go for a project boat, was the fact that we thought, yeah, we could sell our house and we could take out a big loan and buy this Dudley Dix. Which was tens of thousands of pounds, and would have ended up with a lot of debt against, or a loan to repay. So that was one reason why we didn't buy it. And the other reason we didn't buy it was the fact that it had got this amazing pilot house upstairs, which we loved, but no living space downstairs. So looking at the kind of space and the accommodation and the layout, you got this, obviously a double space for 2 people to sleep in the forepeak. You'd got a double cabin downstairs opposite the galley, and then you've got space in the back for another cabin, and that was really, really good.
Obviously, if we changed it to that layout, it would mean that our living space was only up in the pilot house, and that's not something that we want. We really like on Melody that you can get down into the sort of darker, shadier, cooler area.
Don't get me wrong, we love the heat like everybody else. We like being outdoors in the warm weather, so we're not going to struggle with that, but we do like to get into the shade.
And we've noticed it in the summer how hot it is up in the pilot house, and that's fine, but it does make the living space very limited if we were to do it that way. So the other option is, could we put a cabin on the other side, on the opposite side to Jack, and there's not enough space, and also then we'd lose all our storage space for warps and fenders and tools and things like that. But because there's a steering system that goes through there, it wouldn't be practical, a practical use of space to put in another bed. So we don't think that's an option.
And the last thing we want to be doing is taking on another huge modification to the boat when Melody's so close to being finished. She's really close now. The only things left to do really are finish the chain plates, reinstall the swing keel, step the mast and all the painting, and then there's just tidying up a few little bits and pieces. Obviously we've got to do electrical installation of a few bits and pieces and water and gas and that kind of thing, but those aren't big projects in the grander scheme of things.
April is when we're planning to float, but she still won't. I mean, I'm due at the end of April, beginning of May, so she probably it won't be a space that we can move on to, and we're very keen to be on the boat and before I'm due, because we want to move into the space rather than moving into bringing the baby home to a house and then having to up sticks and move onto the boat with a new baby. We want to already be on the boat. We want it to be the norm for us, and we bring the baby home to the boat, and which will make that transition so much easier for everyone if we're already settled into that lifestyle. That's not going to happen on Melody because she's not going to be ready for us to move into in February, ideally. We actually also have to be out of our house by mid-February. Mid to end of February we need to move out. So the options are we can rent a house and take on a 6-month tenancy, which obviously then ties us to land still for longer.
Now, do you remember Paul? I'm sure you remember Paul. He came to help us several times and has been a big part of the channel now. So if you've watched our channel, you know who Paul is. Well, a few weeks ago we were down on Paul's boat in Aberystwyth, and we were talking about this exact subject with him, and having discussed it and thought, look, we really need to start thinking about the possibility of getting another boat. Melissa was in bed that night on eBay looking at boats for sale. Again, we're determined that we didn't want to take on a loan. We could, but we don't want to. And we don't also want to take on a huge project because we've been there, done that, and are still doing it. We're not giving up on Melody in any sense. But we're sort of looking at, well, what's out there. And she came across this advert for a Bowman 46 centre cockpit, aft cabin, and not in too bad shape. It's fiberglass, so there's no welding to do at all. All the rigging's there. The teak decks have all been replaced. The gel coat has all been repaired. The osmosis has all been treated. The engine has had a full rebuild. The interior is a little bit shabby due to rainwater getting into the bilge and making the woodwork swell up a little bit, and some of the veneers peel a bit, but that's no biggie at all. And the old electrics, the kind of old gauges and instruments and what have you, they're gone, they've been stripped. So but again, that's really no big deal, is it? So the next day we thought, well, we've got nothing to lose by going to have a look, have we? So we went to have a look at it, and here's what we found. Look at this.
Not this.
Not this.
No.
This. So this is a Bowman 46 centre cockpit, aft cabin, beauty. And we'll just do a walk round of the outside. The gel coat top sides have all been done.
Well, yeah.
The below the waterline has had all the osmosis treatment done. It's fresh copper coat done. It's got brand new anodes done. It's got the cutlass fairing done, and it's had the prop. It looks a bit tarnished, but I think it was cleaned up and done. All the skin fittings are brand new and done. The mast and rigging is here.
And dirty, but
dirty, but less than 10 years old, the standing rigging. So the standing rigging is good. The running rigging is in good order. There's one or two pieces that might need
but
changing.
we will obviously take it all off and inspect it.
Yeah, we're going to inspect it all and clean it all. And have a look at this. We are just blown away. She's got a little bit of grub on the top sides, but you can literally see your face.
Yeah,
you can see reflections in the top.
She hasn't
sides.
had her bootstrap painted, so
no, they've done the copper coat, and they haven't even done the bootstrap yet. So, and this line here, she was floated not so long ago, and the white line that you can see penciled in is where she floated without the mast and with the boat completely empty. So with the mast, she's a yawl, by the way. With the masts on and with the boat stocked up, she'll float nearer the waterline. Let's get a ladder out the van and get up on the top side.
yeah.
Hang on.
Much higher than
Lots of rules.
Okay, so here we go. Ladder's all secure and tied. There's a lot of cleaning work to do. Let's just supervise Melissa and Jack up the ladder. Okay.
Onto the wood.
And into the cockpit, please. Straight into the cockpit. Good lad. So Jack's in the cockpit safe. And then Melissa and I will give you a show round. And this is literally the first view of the boat. You safe there?
Yeah.
Cool. So, looking forwards, we have brand spanking new teak decks that the previous owner put on at great expense. Lots and lots and lots of money spent on these teak decks. In fact, I gather it was £35,000 spent on these teak decks, and they're in perfect condition, not a speck on them. The hatches are in perfect condition. There's no crazing. That one leaks slightly around the frame, but there's no crazing. We've got a lovely chain locker here, which I can't open. Yes, I can. Lovely anchor. In fact, I think that's the actual anchor locker, not the chain locker.
Oh yeah, that's the anchor locker.
That's the anchor locker. I think the chain locker goes in somewhere else. The chain goes in somewhere else, but we'll figure that out. Bow roller at the front there. We've got the boom for the main mast, the boom for the yawl, and a spinnaker pole. Missing an end cap off the spinnaker pole. And a Dan buoy. So that's all good. Yeah. One of the issues is it's wet inside because so she's got a keel stepped mast, and this wasn't left properly covered, and it's full of water. Not over the engine, and it's just cosmetic inside, so we'll cover that more suitably later.
Chain plates have been checked and rebedded.
Chain plates are all in perfect condition. The sail tracks are in perfect condition. Cockpit seats are all good. The washboards are a bit flaky. We've got the beginnings of a spray hood, which we've got the fabric for. We've got wheel steering, which doesn't need rebuilding like it did on Melody. It all works perfectly.
Right.
Throttle quadrant on the pedestal, and under here is
A compass?
yes, it will be ancestral. Let's get this off because we haven't even seen this ourselves yet. So here's the unveil. Beautiful ancestral compass. On this side we have the world's largest cockpit locker, which just goes down forever. This is the mast foot for the mizzen, and it's got some deck glands there. This is the large aft lazarette
And gas pit,
gas locker, which drains overboard. Put that there. And we've got fenders and tarp in there, so that's huge. That is huge, actually.
Yeah.
Mahoosive.
Little gate, transom gate.
Yeah.
There is a stern light.
There's a stern light.
A very old grubby stern light.
Yeah, an old grubby stern light. And we've got a transom gate here that opens up.
Ready?
Don't be surprised if this looks a bit manky inside. The
Yeah.
hull is sweet, the engine's sweet, the rig is sweet, the steering's sweet.
Well, engine needs to be stuff a bit.
Engine needs looking at, but
This rose tinted glasses from now on.
right.
Her name is Ocean Overture.
Ocean Overture currently is the name of the vessel.
We might change it to Overture.
Right, Melissa's going down for the very first time. So we met up with Mike and Jane. Mike is one of my sort of sailing mentors, really. He's a offshore yacht master and he's a sailing instructor and has run sailing schools and all that kind of stuff. So and Melissa did her day skipper course with Jane, if you remember. And Mike came to look at the boat with us, and we went to the pub afterwards, and Mike said, listen guys, you can't not have a go for this boat. She's going so cheap and she's so much better for your purposes than Melody is, or for your future than Melody is going to be. You've got to have a go. You've just got to.
And we made a bid and we actually won the boat. And over the last few weeks, in between everything else that's been going on, with our friends Mike and Jane and Chris and Paul and Andrew, we've had loads of help getting this boat ready to float, and hopefully she'll be in the water very soon for us to bring back up to North Wales and live aboard. Once we're living aboard, then we can make the decision, because this is an amazing boat and something that we never thought that we would be able to afford, but she came up at a ridiculously cheap price for what she is, and she does need jobs doing. They're all things that we can do in the water living aboard, but the decision will be, obviously, because we put our heart and soul into Melody, is can we make Melody suitable for a family of 4, or is the Bowman a better boat and should we keep the Bowman? So we've got some tough decisions to make, but it's very exciting because we are actually going to be very soon, over the next couple of months, making that transition into being a live aboard family, which it may seem crazy because it's like, oh my god, what about the stress of having 2 boats? Surely that's going to be even worse than what you are now. But our house that we currently live in is amazing. It's beautiful, but it's got a really large garden, and every time we go back there from the boat, we're just overwhelmed with the amount of stuff that we've got to do to maintain the house. More than any of the boats give us, and there's lots of things that, you know, if we were to stay there, we would have to do. We want to be in a small space with less stuff on the water, and that's, you know, and you know, living the life that we want to live. And by not having the house, that will ease our stress levels tenfold, which sounds crazy, but it really will, because there's so much to do in the house. There's so much just to maintain the property, like gardens and hedges, and it's a countryside house that needs constant looking after, and we don't have the time or the enthusiasm for the house because that's not what we want.
So we're making that transition from land life to boat life now. We're in the process of that, getting the Bowman ready, getting the Bowman in the water, and at the same time getting Melody finished so that we could move aboard Melody. And then we've got a choice of 2 boats, which is a big commitment, but it's also a big luxury because we can relax then. We're out of the house and we're in a position where we can look at both boats and think, right, seriously now, which one of these 2 boats is going to be more suitable for us?
So I'm guessing that the $1 million question that you're all thinking right now, what does this mean for Melody and the boat project? And nothing. It actually means that once we're out the house, we're going to have more time to dedicate to Melody and getting her ready. And we are committed to that. We want to finish the project and we want to get her in the water. Even if we decide to keep the Bowman and sail off on that, we still want to get Melody finished. Of course, if somebody came along, the right person that was invested in the project as much as we have been, and said, I'll buy her for the right price, and we knew that they were going to do the work, then of course we would consider that. But we want to finish her, and we've put a lot into her, so we want to get her in the water and floating. Whether we then choose to sell her afterwards or we choose to move on her, that's a decision that we've got to make. But we've put everything into this boat and we want to see her floating. We would feel like we've let ourselves down if we don't manage that. And the only way that we would consider not doing that is if somebody came along and said, I'll take her on as she is, and we knew that they were going to do that, and they were going to put as much effort into her as we have. But anyway, over the next couple of months, you're going to see it's still going to be boat work and boat projects, but you're also going to see our transition onto moving aboard a boat and decision making on what we think we should do in the long term. Our goal is to go off sailing. Our goal, however we do that, we want to, whether we do that on Melody or whether we do it on the new boat, we want to go off sailing and we want to live aboard as a family, and that is our main goal out of all of this. It's not doing up a boat. Obviously we owe it to Melody to finish her, but our main goal is to live in a smaller house and go off, a smaller home, a floating home, and go off and explore the world as a family. Exciting stuff coming.
So thanks very, very much for watching.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know it's sort of a big bombshell to drop on you all, and we still hope that you carry on watching, because there's still going to be loads of boat work on Melody.
Yeah,
Please do.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate, we are not giving up on Melody. That's not what we're saying here. But we've got 2 boats to choose from, so it's going to be really, really exciting stuff.
Yeah, and the main thing is that we're going to be living aboard in the next month or 2, which we are super happy and excited about.
And we hope that you're happy for us as well.
And at least I have in my own room.
Yes, yeah.
Jack's happy, but you haven't seen any of that
You've
yet.
not seen any of that
So in
yet.
a future episode, you will get to see the inside of the boat.
And Jack's aft cabin and what have you, which he can share with the baby when they come along. And with that, thanks very, very much again. We'll see you next week on Sailing Melody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. And don't forget to subscribe.